Hi, this is James from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to learn how to play Letter Jam, which is published by CGE Games, which is a cooperative Scrabble-like game, sort of mixed with a little bit of Boggle. You're going to be trying to figure out what letters you have, and with those letters, try to spell a word by the end of the game. Then you're going to flip those cards over and see if you were right. Let's go ahead down to the table here, and I'm going to show you how to play Letter Jam. All right, so Letter Jam. Letter Jam is a cooperative game for 2 to 6 players. In every round, every player is going to be able to see all the other players' letters, but you're not going to be able to see your own letter. And there's these stands here that you're going to be able to place these letters on. You're going to be trying to, cooperatively, as a group, trying to have the other players guess what letters they have showing without being able to see them. And to do so, you're going to cooperatively work and see who can figure out the best word that would help the team the most. And whoever does is going to spell out their word. And they're going to use these tokens here to help show which letters would be for the parts of the word. And we're going to keep on going until we get to the end of the game. And at the end of the game, we're going to try to spell a word with what you think the letters are. And if you're correct, you're going to win. But before we go into really how to play this game, let's go ahead and go over the components here. You're going to have 64 letter cards here. These are the letter cards you're going to use throughout the game. You're going to have setup cards. I have the 6-player setup card out here, but there's also for 5, 4, and 3, and 2. You're going to have, a game comes with pencils, and it comes with a pencil sharpener. And comes with a pretty hefty notepad here. For players to write down what the letters they think they have are. You're going to get these 6 stands at any one time. You're going to have 5 available that you're going to see, even with lower player counts, and 1 that you won't be able to see, which will be yours. You're going to have these tokens here that I have over on the flower here. These are the clue tokens. There's going to be 6 red and 9 green. And that's the components that you're going to get in the game. All right, setup for the game is pretty simple. Basically, you're going to take this deck here. You're going to take the number of players you have. So there's 64 cards here. I have 6 players. So I'm going to evenly deal out these cards. So I'll go ahead and do that now. All right, now that we've evenly spread out these cards to all the players. So if you had a 5-player count, there'd be 5 decks. This is a 6-player count, so I have 6 decks and so on. But anyway, you're going to look through here. And you're going to pick out 5 letters here that's going to spell out a word. So we're going to go ahead and try to figure out a letter here that we can spell with these words. Once we do that, we're going to have the 5 cards. So we'll have a 5-letter word. So let's just say we did that just so we make it faster. And we're going to discard the remainder, so anything that wasn't part of that 5-letter word, and pass that little deck off to the left. And we'll get 5 cards from the other player. And that will be our deck for the game. And we aren't allowed to look at this at all. All right, so each player is going to now shuffle these 5 cards here that you can't see that you got from your player on the right here, and you're going to set them in front of you. And these are going to be the letters that you're going to use in the game, and it's very important that you're going to keep them in this line here the entire game, so that when you write it down on the sheet here, you're going to know where the position is when you try to form a word at the end of the game. You're going to take this leftover deck of cards that weren't picked, and you're going to set it out in the play area. And then finally, you're going to take your first letter without looking at it and place it on your standee there. So everyone will do the same here. All right, so now everyone has their letters, and you're going to be able to see all these letters that are out there, but you're not going to be able to see your own. All right, one final thing for setup that you could do is you can change the difficulty level. You can make it easier by reducing it. So you have a 5 letters here, but you could go down to 4 or 3 to make it even easier. Or you can make it even harder and go to 6 or 7 letters if you want. That's up to you. You could set the difficulty here. Standard's going to be 5 letters. All right, the last final thing you're going to do for setup is everyone's going to get one of these sheets of paper. When you get this sheets of paper, you're going to fold it so that you can write down and no one else can see what you wrote down on this paper. You're also going to set up the little clue card here. Now the clue card is going to show, again, for player count. In this case, we're playing for 6 players, so we have the 6-player card down, and you're going to match the clue tokens with the color. So red tokens would go here, green tokens would go there, and that would set that up. Now, if you're playing for less than 6 players here, you're going to have to set up some non-player stands. If you're doing a non-player stands, basically what you're going to do is you're going to have these here, and you're going to have a little deck of cards behind them here. Now these cards will be dealt out to the non-player characters randomly. You're going to use a clue token here, so you're going to take one of your extra clue tokens and you're going to place it underneath the deck here to make it easier to pick it up. The cards off of that, and simply after making these stacks, you're going to take the top card, flip it up, and place it so players can see it. So those would be the non-player character stands on there. So that's all there is for setup. Let's go ahead into how to play the game. All right, so this game is going to take place over several rounds. What your goal is going to be able to guess what all 5 letters you have are, and have them written down on the sheet, and then have them form a word, and then rearrange them to form that word, and have that word correct. And everyone's looking to be able to do the same thing to cooperatively win. Now, in a round, all the players are going to discuss who can come up with the best word here to help the players out. And there's some rules on this discussion. You can say how many letters are in your clue. So if I'm going to say lab, L-A-B, that's 3 letters. I'll say I got a 3-letter clue. You can say how many players it helps, but not which one. So I could say it helps 3 players if you want to use mine. How many non-player stands it uses. So I could, if I had non-player stands, I could say, which is going to be a lower player count than 6, I could say maybe it helps out 2 of the non-player stands or whatever. How many bonus letters it uses, but not which bonus letters, and whether it uses wild cards. So we'll go over all that in a minute, but the other things you can't say is this clue helps everyone but a single person, or that person, or who specifically. You can't say my clue is sort of obscure. You can't do that either. You can't say, can my clue be a place name? You can't point to a person and say those 2 people, that person has the same letter. You can't say they have the same vowel once. You can't allude to what they have of this word that you might use. All right, now that everyone's picked a clue giver, there's going to be some rules for this next part. So they've picked the clue giver. You're going to need to take a clue token. And this is going to change based on player count. So with a 4, 5, or 6 player count, you're going to take a red token when you give your first clue. If you already have given one, you take a green token whenever you give a clue. So initially, the only available green tokens here are going to be the ones on the leaves here. And if there's none left, you're going to have to pick someone who can take a red clue token for that round. When all the red tokens are gone, everyone has given at least 1 clue, and your team is rewarded. The green token in the center of the flower becomes available, and that's going to be your last clue token. So you can see the game will end if you run out of clue tokens. That's one way the game can end. We'll go over that, the rest of that in a little bit. But there is a changes for the 3 or 2 player game. For a 3-player game, you take a red token for your first 2 clues. In a 2-player game, you take a red token for your first 3 clues. But anything above 3 players, like 4, 5, and 6, you're going to have to take the red token after your first clue. But anything else, like in a player count of 4, 5, or 6, you're going to be taking a green token first, then a red token. All right, now the clue giver is going to spell out the clue using the number tokens. The first number marks the first letter, the second marks the second letter, and so on. So you're going to spell out it. You'll write it down on this sheet right here. So if the clue, let's say we did a silly one, that wouldn't be that great, and we made it lab, so it'll be in here. All right, now the next part is really important here. The clue giver is going to spell out the word. They're not going to say what their word is, but they're going to spell it out using these tokens. So if I did lab, I would say this would be the first one, this would be the second one, and this would be the third one. Now I could also have used wild letters. I could put ones in there for it. Some of them can come up twice or whatnot. But what did you end up doing? So let's say we did a super simple one, which is going to be lab. And this player was a clue giver. I could see all three of those. So I would just say, I know what the other players are. So I could say, which can help me out in the future. So you do want to write this down. So this would be lab. Now, if this was switched and this was over here and I couldn't see it and they said that was there, then I would take this sheet here and I would put a question here because I'm not quite sure what that one is, and AB. So I know what that is. So it could be a lot of different things. It could be cab, it could be tab, it could be lab. So many different things it could be, but that would be my clue. So let's say if we reversed it and I had the L here, but I didn't know. Once I'm pretty sure what the letter is, I can mark it down here in its place. So if I say I'm out for some unknown reason, I think that's an L. Then I would turn my card down to show that I have guessed what that is. And once everyone's done, we're going to move on to the next round. Now, when we move on to the next round, it's going to function the same way as this round, except for, let's say I did guess this one. Without looking at it, this card would go here, and then I would flip up a new card that I wouldn't look at, and that I would need to try to see if I can guess what this letter is. And I'm trying to work my way through all of these letter cards, writing them down on here. Now, a couple rules for this wild card here. This wild card can only be used to represent one letter. Simply placing a number token beside it shows where it is in your clue. If the letter appears more than once in the word, you will use the wild card multiple times. However, you cannot use it to represent two different letters or anything like that. It represents one letter. So if I have it in there twice as like 3 and 5th letter, I put it in there. That helps me spell words. Now, a couple little notes on here too. The non-player stands. So if I had some non-player stands on here, always use 6 stands. So no matter what, there's going to be a player count. There might be some non-player stands. Cards and non-player stands can be used in any clue, just as if they were letters. At the end of the round, the non-player stand discards its letter if it was like they do what it was, and they're going to put a new one up. So that's going to be some upkeep if you're going to be using some non-player characters out there. Bonus letters. Late in the game, some players will run out of letter cards. If you return your last card to your row, draw a new one from the deck. Place your stand in front of you. So let's say I got all these. I know what all this is. Then I will place a new one in front. Now, this will play like normal, except for when someone uses it. This is an extra letter in a clue. You can try to guess it. State your guess out loud. Then look at the card. If you guess correctly, it becomes a bonus letter. Place the bonus letter near the wild card. If you guessed wrong, discard it. Whether you guessed it wrong or right, draw a new card from the letter I can place in front of you. There is no limit to the number of bonus letters you can have for a team. And these are going to be bonus letters, like I said in the beginning, that you can actually use to help spell out your word and keep it from being unknown necessarily with the wild one. So that's a very good benefit in the game. All right, so we're going to keep on doing this. When does the game end? Well, there are 2 ways the game can end. If you end a round with no clue tokens for the next round, the game is over. So if you run out of those clue tokens, the game is over. The game ends with leftover tokens if everyone decides they don't need any more clues. So we know what our words are. We know what all our letters are. We don't need any more clues. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to have these. You're not going to know what they are. So you're going to say, okay, so in this case, I'm just flipping them over. And this one would have been here instead. So let's say throughout the game, I was able to guess this. So I wouldn't flip these over. Keep that in mind. But I would have said like this is, we'll say this was an S. This was an R. This was an O, this was a W, this was an M. So I wouldn't have flipped these over, so I don't know what they are. But throughout the game, I guessed those letters. So I'm going to take a look at this here. And I'm going to be like, well, I need to make a word with this. Well, let's go ahead and make it this. Worms. Then I'm going to ever so carefully, and I suggest you just do it above these. So I'll set this here and I'll say, okay, well, this one here was my W. So I'm going to put this W here. Don't flip it. Okay. And then I'm going to say, okay, well, I need an O here. This was my O. And then I'm going to need an R here. This was my R, this was my M, and this was my S. Okay? And now, after everyone's done that, we're going to flip it over and see if we have spelled a word by guessing our letters correctly. Now, another couple caveats for this. You can use bonus letters or the wildcard to help you spell out a word if you need to. When trying to spell out a word, any of your letters can be replaced by a bonus card or wild card. Simply place it face up on top of your card that you want to replace it with. You can use more than one of these cards from the middle of the table, but no card can be used by more than one player. All right, so now everyone has revealed it. They've decided whether they got words correct. So everyone's going to take turns revealing this. Now what happens? Did everyone more or less spell a word? So if everyone spelled a word there, and even if it wasn't the word they intended, as long as they spelled a word, everybody wins. If not, everybody loses. All right, if you want to use scoring, you can in here. And this is going to show you what your score is going to be. And you're trying to get better every time. So whatever length your word is, you're going to score 3 times its original length. So if you had a 15 or if you had a 5-letter word here, it would be 15 points. Then you're going to get plus 1 point per letter beyond that length. Then you're also going to, so that would be including using the bonus cards or the wild card there. So if you use bonus cards to increase the length, then you're also going to get plus 1 point, but the bonus cards don't count to the 3 times point. You're also going to get plus 1 point per available green token left on the setup card. So that would be this one here. And then you get your final score in here. And that'll show you how well you did in the game. I don't really use this. I just like playing it cooperatively, but that is an option where you can do some scoring for the game itself. And that was how you play Letter Jam. Thank you for watching.